In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut this underbust ruched shoulder basque blouse, and this dress is from Stitches by Icy. Now to start, I'm going to go ahead to mark out my basic measurement that I need for this pattern, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to waistline, and I added extra 5 inches for the basque at the lower part of this dress. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches at the front part of my pattern, and I'll come down and I'll mark 2.8 inches because the neckline is not so deep. So after marking this, I'm going to place my curve drew and I'm going to connect from that neckline all the way down. The next step is to go ahead to mark the shoulder area of this pattern. Now go ahead to measure from your shoulder to where you want this dress, the sleeve of this dress, to stop. And also note that we are still going to do a slash and spread at the sleeve to give you that ruche effect. So I measured about 10 inches and I went down by 1 inch there to give it that shoulder slope effect. And I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead and mark my dart intake, although I'll be blending out my dart intake for this pattern. So I'm just going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll mark this on the bust, under bust, waist and blouse length. Now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect this, connecting all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark my darts. For the dart, I'm going to use a basic dart of 1/2 inch on both sides. I'll mark this on the underbust, waist and basque length or blouse length of this dress. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect this starting from the upper part of my pattern all the way to the lower part. That is from the underbust to the waist and from the waist to the blouse length. So after I'm done marking this, I'm just going to go ahead to extend this towards the upper part, but I'll make sure I'll come down by 1 inch towards the bust. Next step is to insert your measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now measure this dart intake I have here. It's meant to be 1 inch, but it's not up to. So I'll just go ahead to blend this out, then replace it here and add my sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. Now at the lower part, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking this, I'll connect this all the way up and then connect from the waist all the way to the blouse length. After I'm done marking that at that point, I'll come up by 2.5 inches from the lower part. And I'm going to connect my basque. To connect my basque, I'll blend out my dart and I'm going to connect this starting from this point all the way to the center part. So I added an extension at the center of this dress, the front part. So I went ahead to blend out my dart because I'll be cutting this as one piece. And I outlined the rest of my pattern. I'll go ahead and underline my underbust for this pattern and outline the side of my pattern. I'll go ahead to outline the rest of my pattern, that is towards the sleeve area. Now what I'll do is to go ahead to mark my sleeve opening. Now you can measure what you have there, or you can just take this all the way down going towards the underbust this way. So I made it slightly slanty so that it can really relax at the underbust area. Now you're going to use a slash and spread effect to achieve the upper part of this dress. Now I'll just go ahead and mark that out, which I'll go ahead to number it. Now we are going to place this on a different pattern altogether. First, I'll just go ahead and I will cut out my pattern, and after cutting this, I'll go ahead to slash and spread this on another pattern. I'll notch the underbust area of my pattern that meets the blouse. Now after cutting out, make sure you measure out the neckline and the shoulder part, because after the slash and spread you will have to use the actual measurement you have to ruche it back to the original measurements we have. Also go ahead to pleat out your dart because we are going to cut this without a dart at the front. Now I place this on another pattern paper. What I'm going to do is to slash and spread. So this part totally depends on how full you want it to be. But while cutting, you can make the neckline area or the armhole area not to be too full, and then make towards the sleeve area to be a little more than the neckline, or you can just use the same measurement for it. I'll start by ruling out a line which will serve as a guide for my pattern. Now I'll now go ahead to slash out my pattern and I'll be spreading it on this new pattern paper. So I'll cut the first pattern and I'm going to place it and pin. So you can use your tape to hold it down. After pinning it, I'll just go ahead to measure 2 inches. Now this 2 inches is not a standard. You can either use 2 inches or you can add more to your pattern. This totally depends on how full you want this to be. But towards the neckline area, that is this part I'm working on, you want to make it not to be too full because you're still going to pipe out the neckline. So I'll mark another 2 inches and I'll mark. So I'll keep repeating this till I get to the end of the pattern. So after cutting out this part, this is where the armhole ends. From number 4, you can decide to like add extra to your sleeve. That way your sleeve will be fuller, especially when you're making it. So when you're making your own, you might use more than these 2 inches. So this is just because I'm drafting this on a pattern paper and I am not making it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead to also place the 5th one and mark, then place, and make sure that whatever you're placing aligns. So after this, you're going to go ahead to add an elastic which will ruche it back to the original length, or you can create a channel at the shoulder, pass your elastic through it, and you're going to make sure it returns to the actual length of the dress. That is the actual sleeve where it's meant to stop. Now I'll trace the neckline. Also, you're going to return the neckline to the actual neckline. So like I said earlier, whatever you have here, after doing your slash and spread, the elastic is supposed to make it come back to the actual length. So also notch where your armhole is. If you notice, I notched mine because that is where you'll be joining it back to the dress. And for the neckline of this dress also, just like I said earlier, you're going to measure the actual neckline you have. So whatever you have here now, you're going to go ahead to like pipe it or return it to the actual neckline. Pleat the upper part of the neckline and then you can go ahead to use the same fabric to like fold it back to the actual length. So this is what I have after cutting out. So if I want to use this pattern, cut the back, I'll just create a slanted neckline all the way up. So I didn't get to see the back, so for my own back pattern I'll be using the front and I'll go ahead to slant it. So I'll just leave the back pattern open, right? So for the lower part of the back pattern, that is where I'll add a zipper to it. Now I'm going to blend out my dart, take up this basque area of the dress. Now I'll trace this out and also go ahead to trace the sides of this pattern, and after tracing it out, I will now go ahead to cut it out. So this will be the lower part of the back pattern of this dress and I will cut it out. Now after cutting it out, I'm going to go ahead to cut out the zipper bulge of this dress. Now go ahead to mark out your waistline, and after marking that, come in by ½ inch from the waist, extend this all the way up, and you're also going to extend it down to the lower part of your pattern, and I'm just going to go ahead to cut it out. So after that, I'm done with today's tutorial. If you have any question, please go ahead to leave it at the comment section. Thanks.